Okay, guys, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly dungeon master this evening. Tonight, we're continuing on with Session 9 of our ongoing campaign, playing Paizo Publishing's very cool Pathfinder 2nd Edition, set in the sprawling mega dungeon Barrowmaze Complete, authored by Greg Gillespie. And with me tonight are the stars of the Back in the Barrowmaze campaign. We've got two brave sojourners who are heading back into the Barrowmaze, or the Barrowmoor at least, potentially tonight, and another joining us later. But the folks who are here right now, let's go in the order that you guys logged in. First up is John. Tell us who you are, who you're playing.
I'm Jonathan. I am playing Zuko Flamebearer, the Goblin Firemancer, and Wyvern Hater, all that. So.
Nice. And next up is Arlen.
Hi, I'm Arlen, and I'm playing Sir Yvain. He's been, getting his spurs dirty down in the depths of the Barrowmoor and all that sort of stuff, and is in some ways perhaps lucky to be alive, but I don't know how much he realizes that.
Okay. So, where last session was a pretty eventful session, guys. What do you recall happening last time?
Zuko almost died no less than 3 times.
Oh. Yeah.
Yep.
But he took out some good ones.
All right, sweetie.
We regrouped in the cave, ran away from the Wyvern, ran through the marsh, got ambushed, killed some lizard folk, and then barely made it back to Helix.
Nice. Yep, that is right. You and all your allies, roughly, I mean, in total, only about 12 hours have passed since you set out from Helix, but it was an eventful 12 hours filled with a number of very, very close encounters. What you've seen since returning is, I guess, first off, what you went out in search of with the rest of the party was first. This was not the. This is the second trip in as many days, because 2 days ago, or the day before yesterday, I guess yesterday is the word I'm looking for. So really firing on all cylinders on Friday night. What you were looking for the day before was to rescue a young boy who had been set upon by some kind of nasty creature, and the creature had nearly killed his father. Sir Yvain, thanks to his keen training and what he was reading up on the Barrowmaze and the threats surrounding the Barrow Mounds and the Barrowmoor, identify this as an insidious necrotic virus of some kind that seemed to spread a particular kind of necromancy, of vampirism. And while you were able to make use of your divine gifts to cure the son effectively of his affliction, the father unfortunately festered for quite some time, so he was much further along by the time you guys got back to town with the young Tamsin. But all was not lost, and Brother Othar, the local priest of St. Yig, who runs the Shrine of St. Yig in Helix, he had suggested that this herb called Bone Blossom, that was kind of difficult to find in the Barrowmoor, because it grows on corpses not risen. All right, sweetie. Have we said hi to everyone? I think we've said hi to everyone so far in Calgary, so... but we'll see. Maybe we need to say hi again. Then you guys... So you set out, you got the Bone Blossoms, you got back, and where we left things last time was everyone heading into Hendon's cabin to pass the Bone Blossoms off to Brother Othar. While you guys were gone, Brother Othar, Gamdar, and Scylla, Gamdar and Scylla are his 2 acolytes. They have been maintaining a vigil, a specific ritual to try and prevent the spread of this stuff. So that's kind of where we left things. So you guys have come in haggard, exhausted, some more exhausted than others. But you make your way into Hendon's cabin, which is right there. I'm pinging Let me resituate you guys if you need. Boom. Right in the town of Helix. So, yeah, there is a fairly big group of you guys by this point, and I think that maybe we will say that Werbin and Badonk go in because those two seem to be the ones with the longer connection. They've been here for a whole full season. You guys were kind of Johnny-come-latelys either at the end of the season or just at the start of the fall or the winter. So that then leaves you guys with an evening. Night has fallen. The cold tendrils of ice fog have now surrounded the town of Helix. The only two sources of light that you can see and noise are the foul pheasant, with the proprietress Perny Ticklebottom, and then there, of course, is the Brazen Strumpet, run by Ballo and serviced by his friendly, for the most part, staff. What are you guys going to do then? You're standing in the cold. You are covered with, I imagine, mud and dirty snow. You're frozen. You're injured. What are you guys thinking?
Well, I think if we could do kind of short rewind, that Sir Yvain will tell Badonk and Werbin we're the ones going in, right?
Sorry, say again?
Badonk and Werbin are the ones going in to deal with Hinden and all that sort of stuff. That Sir Yvain will tell them if there's anything that we need to be prepared for, let us know right away.
Okay, they will do.
And we'll be in the Brazen Strumpet.
Okay, we will collect you if necessary.
Zuko digs through the party loot and walks away with a certain charged stick so he can look at it closer.
I think the staff you may have difficulty getting from. I think that is an open question.
I'll give it back. I just want to look at it.
Yeah. What we need to do actually is we do need to figure out how we're going to deal with treasure as it comes in, because what can happen is with these kind of drop in drop out campaigns is if someone does not specifically claim the stuff, then it just doesn't get claimed or doesn't show up on their character sheets because I'm not going to add it. And if you guys forget about the stuff you recovered, I'm not going to bother paying attention.
I'm not going to forget about that stuff.
Yeah, I doubt it. So what do we do this? Like, Bargle's going to be showing up later, and the only reason I'm hesitant about having him go off is because Bargle is a criminal and he's selfish and clever, and he was the one who identified it. So I think that he may have been keeping his mitts on that for the time being. But I'll let George tell us one way or the other.
Okay.
But anyway, so you guys head in, and I think that the rest of the party as well too. Wes is likewise probably going to go in there, but Wes looks like he's ready to collapse. So I think maybe what Werbin says is like, look, just go and get sleep. We'll handle this.
Zuko will heal you all in the morning.
So you guys head into the Brazen Strumpet, and let me just.
So I wanted to ask while we were walking through town, is there anything going on in the Shrine of St. Yig? Like, is there anybody there currently, or are all the people at Hinden's place?
Yeah, all the people will be at Hinden's.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Well, I can visit him tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, so let's see here. So, throwing the door open to the Brazen Strumpet.
Zuko hears fire.
Yeah, we can hear the sounds of people.
Zuko stomps right up to the fire, sticks his hand in front of it and warms up, and spins around and warms his rear end and just
Nice. So you make your way into the town. You get right up to where the fire is, and Ballo. Tacey I think is probably the one, and Tacey is one of the 3 barmaids that Ballo has hired. Ballo is a guy who's in his probably early 50s. He has the look of a what do you call it? I think I just saw Marjorie, the very generous Marjorie.
he did.
He looks like he's balding. He's thick. Like it looks like he's once was a quite strong, tall guy. And he's got some scars on his face. He's missing one of his fingers. He otherwise has a kind of gruff demeanor, but I mean, he's kind of let himself go soft as well too. I mean, especially in the summertime, he's quite happy to be kind of chatting about like war stories and stuff like that from his time as an adventurer. But right at this time of year, I think he's really just quite invested in the well-being of the town itself. So when you guys walk in, he says, "You're back," from behind the bar, and Tacy says, "You made it. Did you find what you were looking for?" Tacy is attractive, buxom, red-haired. She's your archetypical barmaid.
Sir Yvain, we did, my lady.
Good. How is and Ballo says, "How is Hendon?"
We expect he will recover. 2 of our friends are seeing to him right now.
They found Othar. Othar's been praying all night.
That's good. That's good.
It is. Why don't you guys each give me a perception check, too? Please.
So, perception.
Yeah. Let's get the dice rolling. Nice. Okay. So what you guys notice is that when he says that Brother Othar has been praying, he sort of gestures to something around his, toward this wooden thing that's hanging kind of around his neck. And what you can tell, Sir Yvain, I know you're trained in your religion. Zuko, are you trained in religion as well?
Zuko turns his nose up at religion.
Okay, he's an atheist. All right.
He has 0. Nothing.
Okay. So, Sir Yvain, you actually, you're not sure, I mean, you haven't really noticed it before, or maybe he keeps it tucked in his shirt quite often, but he actually has a small carved wooden, like, not amulet, but like a necklace with a holy symbol on it, and you recognize it as the markings. You know it as Viridis Voltus, but locals call it the Green Man. So he sort of unconsciously kind of goes up towards it, but then stops himself. You get the sense that Ballo may have been praying for him as well, too, to his own god. Otherwise, like the sort of like local farmers and the Karg Barrelgut is of course in here. The big dwarven smith who runs the Axe and Anvil smithy. He and his Gurn, his cousin, who is a apprentice for his. The 2 dwarves are in there as well too. And otherwise, I mean, everyone else in here seems to be in pretty good spirits, which is, I mean, maybe a little unusual, I guess, given what you guys have been through. What's going through your mind is this is the first time I think that either Zuko or Sir Yvain have actually made it to the Barrow Moor. Now, you guys have not made it to the maze yet, but the maze is what brought you here. So now you have a sense of what is going to be before you.
Zuko is like uncharacteristically self-reflective. He's just staring into the fire, his stomach rumbles, and he realizes he hadn't eaten anything since that moth he was forced to eat.
Yes.
I want food!
We can do that, little one, says Tacy. We'll bring you food and something to warm you as well. Sir Yvain?
Yeah, I think reflective is probably about right. I've been imagining Sir Yvain from his kind of original starting position as more of a generic knight to something a little more almost like a British officer in World War I who, spent his time at Oxford and is going to go do his duty for his country, and then it turns out to be fucking terrible, and it's, the horrors of modern warfare. And so Sir Yvain is kind of thinking about the fact that he hasn't been, he's a pretty martial guy, but he is not been prepared for what this is, and he's not really. And he kind of originally was a little skeptical of the stories and is starting to believe that this place is really bad, and he's starting to see how his predecessor Sir Albus met his end here, because he's realizing that this is not just right. It's not like Sir Albus just happened to be a fool and let himself go. This is serious danger out here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the way that you have come to know Sir Albus, I think, is through like you're probably told some broad strokes about what what he was here for and whatever when you were back in Thyatis City, but since when you passed through Ironguard Mott on the way to Helix, Ironguard Mott is kind of like the ducal seat in. Let me just show you guys here. Boom. Ironguard Mott is the ducal seat of the Duchy of Eric, and there is a priest there as well too who runs a chapel of Arcantral, still being built. Arcantral there is a place further out in the Barrowmoor, in the Northern Reaches, near a place called Highfell, that actually has a very established center for the worship of Arcantral. The Duchy of Eric is more of a fledgling effort. And what brought your predecessor out here in the first place was actually to investigate the Barrowmaze itself, the strange magics that are rumored to be down there. And then now this mystery of the Guardian Barrows as well, too. It's something that I've really been interested in uncovering. Since we've got this, time to kind of stop and catch our breath and let you guys have a bite to eat as well, too. What brought Zuko out here?
Well, Zuko, he was actually raised by humans as kind of goblin fodder. It's kind of like evil humans that have no regard for life. And he was catapulted into a certain level of elite because he had a tie to fire, and goblins are naturally just fascinated by fire. Yep. So his ability to burn things made him a useful tool in the battlefield. So he was bred for war and he was good at it, but it left him feeling hollow. So eventually he started using his magic to heal his allies instead of killing the enemy, and that it ingratiated himself to his allies, but his superiors were looking down on it because they didn't expect the goblins to survive.
Okay. So what brings him here is I guess more specifically what I'm...
He fled from, rather than facing reprisal for his disobedience, and so he's just been running the whole time to get away, and the rumors and riches to be found in this area drew him, because he kind of picked up little skills along the way, like he learned to like music and misdirection and stories, and it just drew him here like a moth to flame.
Sure. And I think you probably heard as well, too, because it's been 2 seasons that Badonka's been out here. You've heard about the Lucky Goblin.
Yeah. I was one of them, too.
Yeah, so, okay. So, you guys are sitting down. We're going to say that the rest of the party has kind of dispersed. Bargle is going to make an appearance in a little bit, but the rest of the party has sort of gone off to do what they're doing, and it's just the two of you sitting at this table. And I'll leave it to you guys. Like, do you think that the two of you... I know Zuko's been out here trying to find work, but he's in the off-season, effectively, so he's... Picture, like, hanging around a ski town, in the off-season for where it's just townies, and that's kind of it, right? Or, like, the hardcore people getting ready for the season. Do you think you guys have had a chance to kind of chit-chat and whatnot and get to know each other at all, or...?
Well, Zuko has developed some sort of appreciation for Sir Yvain and his magic shield. It's actually saved his life at least twice now.
Yeah.
So he's actually warming up to Sir Yvain and like asking him questions and wondering how his armor works and things like that.
Sure.
Because it's too heavy for him. But he's like, how do you walk around in that?
What do you have to say, Sir Yvain?
Oh, this well, for those of us who are built for it, it fits like a glove, and he holds up kind of an armored gauntlet and shows how it fits together. And he probably also, he might even kind of unstrap some of the pieces and take off like a chunk of armor and kind of hold it out and say, "You're welcome to expect it, Zuko, if you like."
Nice. Yeah, Zuko will look at it like, Oh, you can take it off. That's good. Quickly, because what happens when it gets really, really hot and like fire magic?
Well, hopefully the armor protects from the fire magic.
You'd be like a lobster.
Mm. Hey, George, can you hear us?
I can now.
Perfect.
Oh, George is
Sorry I'm late.
So Bargo comes and joins you at the table as well. So you guys are back in Helix. Some of the figures who... Oh, sorry, John. I'm just actually putting that there just to, so I know who's playing who here. And I'm also trying to like place it in a kind of out of... so you can still see the actual town of Helix. So sorry. If it's fucking up your display, I'm sorry.
that's fine. I can move stuff too.
Okay. So the... let's see here. Bargle... yeah, what the rest of the or some other members of the party who are, have spent a full season with Brother Othar have gone into Hendon's cabin to talk about what needs to be done next to deal with this Bone Blossom stuff. Wes, they've sent to bed because Wes is fucking knackered.
Totally.
But you guys are sitting down, so you just kind of sit yourself down too. Sir Yvain and Zuko are in the Brazen Strumpet. They're having a bite, and Zuko, Sir Yvain was just telling Zuko about his armor, and you realize that Zuko had asked to carry the staff you found as well, too.
Mm-hmm.
Zuko would like to look at it.
I literally was going, oh, who is in my house? And I forgot that you've got this new sound effect of people in chat. So
I really need to find a sound of someone walking up behind you sound effect, so I can see all of you guys go. Ugh.
Please don't do that.
You gotta have one that says George.
So exactly. So Bargle turns to Zuko, and Zuko really put his life on the line many times. So despite Bargle's normal predilection for keeping things to himself, he's willing to hand it over.
Zuko hasn't practiced surgery on Bargle yet, right?
He has not practiced surgery.
Okay, note to self, don't do that.
Yes, I've seen.
Well, halflings have weird anatomy. It's fine.
I hand him the staff and I say, "What do you think?"
It smells like smoke. I like it. What does it do?
It is a staff of flame.
Ooh.
Yes, and it grants many powers. You must channel your own magic into it every day to use it.
Oh.
But
do you know how to use it?
I have an idea.
Do you want it, or can we share it?
I'm happy to share it.
Okay.
But like 90-10?
Zuko goes, wait a minute.
That's just the standard. The person who finds it, that's just. This isn't my rules. This is just what I've been told by other people. So
Zuko's 12 intelligence raises an eyebrow.
Let's see if we can. Let's see how the dice are going. Why don't you give us a deception check against Zuko's willpower? That doesn't mean you have to go along with it, Zuko. We'll use this to inform the roleplay.
Zuko is also trained in deception, so what?
Yeah, well, it's gonna be your willpower.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm really good at deception, though.
okay, so deception against willpower.
Yeah. Oh, you don't have to roll. Remember that only one person rolls.
Okay.
Right? It's your... Because that just sets the DC. He's the acting party. You got +7. You are not fooled, Zuko.
Zuko plays along like he is fooled.
Okay. So why don't
great.
you give me a deception roll, and let's see how his goes against the willpower. This isn't going to bind how you guys roleplay, just so it'll be fun
Sure.
to
Give us an idea.
Zuko goes to Haggle. He's like, well, in Goblin Lands, it's more like 30-70.
Yeah.
Oh, you totally destroyed my will.
He crit it!
I'm like, I wasn't aware. I'm very sorry. I apologize profusely.
Zuko forgives.
Bargle's not stupid. He doesn't want to make enemies.
Yeah.
So he'll go right along with it. He totally believes it.
Nice.
100% believes it.
Zuko's like, you can use while you know have fire magic, and then when I run out of fire magic, I get to use.
Okay,
Nice.
that sounds more than fair.
Yes.
Apparently, according to the rules that you
The
just
goblin
informed me
rules.
of.
The goblin rules of salvage.
Zuko, very deceptive.
Oh man, that's great. So let's see here. When So what are you guys thinking here? Like you're Bargo, you're knackered as well too from the trip. You're not as tired as what Wes was. Wes went right to bed to try and sleep this off. Let's see here, Werbin and Wes. No, sorry, Werbin and Badonk are going to be with Brother Othar, trying to suss out what's gonna happen next with Hendon and those bone blossoms. And then I'm trying to think who else was with the Buka is likely going to... Was Buka fatigued as well or not? I don't think so.
Was definitely wounded.
Yeah, he was wounded. Right. So, but I think you guys treated that, didn't you? Or did you just... No, you didn't, right? Because didn't you guys just book it right back to town?
Right, we did, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, sitting around, let's see here. Sir Yvain, why don't you give me a religion check?
All right.
I want to see how well you... Nice. Okay. So, what you know, if you're curious, you've got an idea, I think, of what these bone... Like, the ritual that's going to be invoked to deal with this, from what you did before... how they're going to use these bone blossoms in a ritual. This is going to be like a day or so. And that's around, just so you guys are aware too. Remember that there are rituals in Pathfinder 2nd Edition too that are, to be honest, very close to how rituals were in D&D 4th, where they are separate from spells. Spells use up your spell slots and whatnot. Rituals are actually a series of skill checks that work over a much longer period of time. This ritual that they're going to be enacting, that's about how long some of those rituals take. It's about a day or so to actually invoke them. So that means that if your allies are going to be involved with that, they're going to be occupied for a full day as well. But what are you guys thinking? What do you make of all this stuff? You know, like
do we have any sense, since you're describing rituals as a series of skill checks, is there some meaningful possibility of failure to this ritual?
Oh yeah, like there's certainly no guarantee that this is going to work. This is a long shot that this is really the only chance that Hendon has, and if it wasn't for how key he is as a protector in the town, that they would even consider, he risks himself as sort of the ranger, keeping an eye out for the town all the time, so the least that the town felt they could do was to help out. And that's why everyone kind of threw themselves, into this, to rescuing his son in the first place, and then also to get the bone blossom for him. Plus, you guys are heroes, too. Bargle seemed to think there was some kind of a reward, but...
Yeah, I'm waiting for it. Just
Zuko's thinking that he might ingratiate himself into the city if he helps. Can he help? Will his nature or occultism help?
You have no training in religion, so...
No.
Yeah.
He's not exactly an atheist, but he gives lip service to fire gods.
Yeah. I think that, we can say, as Casey's dropping off, your plate of food and your drink, she kind of pats you on the head. She says, I think you've done all the help that's needed, little one. Bargle. And,
Zuko gives him,
the way that
grin.
The way that Tacey greets you, Bargle, is kind of a Bargle.
That's not unexpected.
He's like, Bargle, good guy. Be nice.
Oh, yes. Just ask Bargle.
Right.
Bargle will tell you what a good guy he is.
He's a great guy. I saved this child's life and now his father. I mean, as part of a team. It was a team effort. But I put my life on the line. Not just for money, but for good reasons. Like other people do. Like Sir Yvain. I'm just like Sir Yvain. That's what I was gonna say. I could see that she's not buying this.
No, she's sort of smirking and says, I'll bring you a drink and food as well.
I think that's probably a better idea.
This time, it'll be on the house, not on your tab.
That's probably smart on your part, too.
Yeah. So she
then
turns...
you'll know it'll be paid for.
You're pushing it, man. Don't push it.
Don't push it. No, I'm going to write that down. Good advice.
More sound goblin advice.
30-70 with goblin sharing, and don't push it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good.
No, you can push it, but don't push too much.
Don't push too much. Okay. I'm making men here. Okay. So what I do want to do, one thing I do want to do is, since I'm going to wind up having a new skill, basically because of my level. I'm going to want to take some time to have somebody help me learn how to perform medicine.
Zuko
okay.
is trained in medicine.
I
Oh,
think.
I've got a blind
think-
spot with halflings, but
Keep injuring them.
Yeah, I don't know if you're the best person to maybe learn from,
Okay.
considering. So I want to find somebody in town that maybe has some kind of expertise
you're-
potentially, or
I think Sir Yvain has training in medicine.
He does have training, although that's one of the things
Oh.
I was going to suggest is with. We talked a little bit about retraining. That I was thinking it might make sense for Sir Yvain to, instead of being an expert in Arcana and trained in medicine, to be trained in Arcana and expert in medicine.
So the reason that I put the expert in the pre-build or the pre-gen character is because he's a priest of the goddess of magic.
Okay, well,
That's
that's okay.
But
I
that's
can
a-
wait until I get the next expert thing.
You know what? But the thing is it is your if what we could say is, now let me just double check the retraining things. I can't remember if you can shift your expertise as well. But what we can say narratively is that you've been picking up more practical skills and neglecting your studies.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, is that
Right,
it makes sense that as I'm here, it'll start to make more sense to get those, the skills that we actually use in the Barrowmaze versus, the academic knowledge that isn't quite as important for surviving it.
Yeah, for the Barrowmoor, not necessarily the Barrowmaze knowledge.
The Barrowmoor.
Yeah, that's just the Barrowmoor. The maze is a whole different kettle of undead fish. Okay, so let's see here. Retraining. Skills. You can retrain skills. It's expressly said. So it'll take you, like, we can say that you've been working on that, and then as you are... it's a week of... Like, rules is written, it's a week of downtime, but what we can say is that you've been sort of talking about this stuff and focusing more on, like, practical skills, and then having now seen this, I'm fine with you guys reworking your characters. I see it looks like your hit points are higher than they were last time, too. Are you guys added to level 4 stuff?
I haven't yet. I have
Okay.
not yet added anything because I wasn't here the last session with you guys on Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Well, now that you're back in town, and once you guys get a good night's rest, you will be able to level up.
Great.
Excuse me, assuming nothing horrible happens tonight. I mean,
remember, we have no spells left.
yeah, sorry?
We have no spells left.
You haven't? Say again?
No spells. Where we need to sleep.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
what are you guys talking about? Like, is there anything else that we're going to see you guys kind of chatting about? How do they? The three of you now have gone out all together for the first time, I think. And
That's true.
Bargle, this is the second time you have gone out adventuring into the Barrowmoor too, and it has proved to be equally as deadly as your first foray in. Although everyone did return alive this time.
Yeah.
That is true. It is an extremely deadly place. However, my life in general has a sort of deadly element to it. I've got a price on my head at the moment, so this at least gives me a chance to survive.
Yeah.
Which is better than nothing. So I will venture back out into the Barrowmoor if I have to, in order to earn what I need to buy off the debt that I owe.
Okay.
I mean, it was a misunderstanding.
Zuko he's gonna lean forward and look all serious for a moment. He's like, so it was really sloppy out there. Like, really sloppy. How about I instruct you in some warfare lore so we can do better tactics?
Sure. I mean, I'm willing to listen to anything.
Yeah. So he basically wants to use his background in warfare and, like, tactical movements for spellcasters so that we don't get into tactical bad positions again.
Okay.
Like Sir Yvain being too far away to protect us, that could be bad.
Okay.
So he's going to do that. He's going to regale them with, like, his knowledge.
It turns out he actually has a surprising amount of information about this, too. Like, he does seem to have some pretty clear, like, explanations of unit tactics and whatnot. Sir Yvain, I think for your order, it's really just the most rudimentary elements of that stuff, like a charging cavalry line or whatnot. You don't have any specific knowledge of, like, military tactics or strategy or whatever, the guiding of armies, but this little goblin actually seems to know quite a bit.
Yeah. You got to know a lot when you're small and there's a lot of you, and then bigger ones and more of them.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have training in this, or did you just pick this up from your people?
No, I served unwillingly in an army as artillery for a bit.
It was the army. It's actually in one of the mercenary armies of a land called Darrocan.
Mm-hmm. Is it a place that either of us, either Sir Yvain or I, might be familiar with?
Yeah, it's a little it's one of the Southlands. It's a land of merchants and mercenaries.
Like, but don't tell anyone. I ran away.
Mm.
Trust me, I totally get it. We're on the same page.
Okay. So everybody gets a hero point as well.
Just to be clear, Kevin decided that this was my character.
Yeah.
I was very happy about it, but...
That's great. Okay, so the... is there anything else we're going to see, from your evening back? Anything else you guys want to role play out, or anything else you want to address with your other party members? Or even what you're planning? Like, what do you do tomorrow after the last 2 days? How do you follow it up?
Zuko is going to heal everybody, and then stuff his face with not moth.
Yeah. Yeah, you still got, like, oh god, shit.
Like, it hurts a lot.
Well, I have a question for Sir Yvain. I wonder if you might know that we maybe picked up some information on both of these expeditions into the Barrowmoor about that those sort of guardian crypts or whatever they were. You know better than I, and may have been corrupted in some way. And not to mention those 2 vampire girls, those little girls. Do you think there's something more afoot in terms of the celestial or the demonic or just the undead in general?
Mm. Bargle, remember that you have actually seen and faced those, and you thought you defeated those girls before.
That's right. Strangely, they somehow return to unlife. This is not something I've encountered before. Does this sound familiar to you in any way? Something we need to be worried about?
There are 2 other heroes, Huxley and Ruggan, that you actually ventured out with, along with some hirelings. Ruggan is a dwarf who looks like this. Oh, where is he here? Boom. There's Ruggs. And Huxley, like La. Huxley is the one who recovered a mace from the Guardian Barrow that you guys went into. From the sounds of things, Sir Yvain, the sword that Sir Albus recovered, that was the thing that came from one of the Guardian Barrows. The other item that came from a Guardian Barrow was this mace that people have heard about. I'm not sure, Bargle, am I correct in thinking that you're not trying to call too much attention to yourself, so you haven't let everyone know that you were part of that expedition?
Exactly, but I'm trying to get more information. Bargle trades in information, so he wants to get as much info as he can without revealing, if he can avoid it, that he was involved.
So here's a bit of information for you. Ruggan, you're not sure. Ruggan just has hired on elsewhere to go, and serve elsewhere, or fight elsewhere for during the winter season. But Huxley actually went missing.
Oh.
Yeah, that's part of the mystery that he went missing, Bargle, which is sort of where you ended up in Bogtown and then got yourself into trouble. And Sir Yvain, you heard. I'm going to actually check the guy's name here, but there is the priest of Arcantrol located in Irongard Mott, whose name is Irongard Mott. Here we go. Nope, I don't remember his name. Where is it? Oh, brother, nope. Friar Fergus. Nope, that's not right either. Shrine underway. Oh, I don't remember his name right now, but I'll have to look it up. Just for continuity purposes, I've got it written down somewhere. I just don't know where. But anyway, you met with the guy who was working on the Shrine to Arcantrell in Ironguard Mod. He's the one who told you, like, look, since Sir Albus disappeared, that sword has gone missing, and the guy who had the mace has gone missing. These are two of the powerful things. We've heard that there was another expedition that's went out to the Barrowmaze. We have no idea what happened to them either. So
and we think there were 4 weapons total.
There were 4 Guardian Barrows. Each contained the resting place of one of the champions, and each of the champions had a weapon. That's what
a different type of weapon each.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what you guys have not placed this together, but you guys can feel free to role play this out appropriately. Bargle, you came across this map. You don't know where it came from. You actually in particular bought it from some guy at Ironguard Mott, some sketchy person in a robe who, sold you the stuff, convinced you that this thing was worth, a lot of money, and it led you guys directly out to that particular barrow, and you got your way in. Sir Yvain, what you know is that in Thyatis, not in Thyatis, it was on the way out here, so it would have been in a city called Specularum, where the priest who was tasked with bringing this information out with the suggested location of the other crypts, he was set upon and murdered in Specularum. That information went missing, and then part of what you're to look at is like somehow that information that was supposed to be sent to this priest in Ironguard Mott, it made its way to at least 2 other adventuring parties, and you don't know what's happened to the third map that revealed the location or suggested location of the 4th Guardian Barrow. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and because Bargo has not said it, I don't think you guys know just yet.
Well, I mean, this is along the lines of the questions I want to be finding out the answers to. So sure. I know Sir Yvain is very knowledgeable and intelligent as well. And I know that I can trust him. And I know that he probably wants to defeat evil, and doesn't care about the treasure. So I feel like it's safe to mention that there's might be more to the story. So I just sort of casually bring it up, like, over. Do you think Arlen would Sir Yvain be drinking at all, or what? Yeah. Okay. He's not a monkish kind of guy. No. Okay, so maybe over an ale, and I'll be buying. Well, I will buy a round of ales for everybody, and I'm not trying to be like, secretive about the conversation. So because I don't want it to sound suspicious. So I'll just say, this
twirling your mustache as you're doing it. So tell me.
Anyway, I'm gonna put this girl on the train tracks. No. So I just start to talk about the things we were just discussing about what we together encountered. And say it reminds me of another expedition where something similar transpired. In fact, I have this map here. I got from a very trustworthy person, and I unfurl this kind of crappy looking map, hand drawn on, terribly drawn on burlap. That clearly goes into the Barrowmoor, into one of the crypts, to one of the one of the mounds.
I think. Let's see here. So, and is it the same map, or is this a redrawn thing that you've got?
I feel like it's a redrawn thing that I made for myself.
Okay. So then, let's do this. Sir Albus, why don't you give me I think I'll let you use religion, because that's probably a better skill for you, because this is something that you would be. It's research that would have been provided by your order. Okay. Yeah. New roll. Okay. 19. Okay, even better. All right. So I think you recognize this as it is not the same parchment that you would expect it to have been on, but the gist of what Bargle's putting out to you seems to be one of those maps that the as yet unnamed priest in Ironguard Mott mentioned. What do you make of that?
Well, Bargo, where exactly did you get this?
I got it from a shop in, of all places, oddly, Bogtown, where there's this excellent scroll and bookshop that you must visit one day. Not anytime soon. Sometimes they close up, by the way. If you do go and you don't find it, that's what they do. But it seemed like, I mean, it was accurate. It definitely was accurate. It led us right to the place we wanted to go. So I trust the gentleman who did sell it to me.
Right to the place you wanted to go.
Well, I didn't. It wasn't my favorite
I don't
place.
think you
but
said exactly where that place was, but it sounds like you know where this map leads to.
Well, I know what this map leads to, but I don't understand what's going on. Like we didn't expect what we encountered when we arrived. This corrupted Barrow of this ancient champion who I think I mean you can tell me was meant to somehow maybe protect the surrounding living population from the undead. I mean, I really don't know what I'm talking about. I know a lot about magic, but that's really
what is Bargle's deception? Is it +6?
That sounds about right. I think it might be a little bit more actually. It is no, it's a 5.
5. Okay, Sir Yvain, why don't you give me a perception roll, please?
I have no idea why you would do that.
Ooh. So it seems like there's obviously, your character can pick up that there's more to the story than what.
Well, and I'm picking up that Bargo keeps adding bits and pieces of the story that I didn't actually mention to him. That
Yeah.
Bargo, I don't know how long you have lived an unsavory life, but if you expect to live it much longer, it might be good to not give away information as freely as you have with me.
I have no idea what you're referring to.
Well, so you were on this expedition to one of the Guardian Barrows and took this map.
Right.
And found something there. And what? Found an undead guardian?
Well, found that the
just so you no, sorry, George. They actually did not. You guys did not face you faced the 2 daughters, and that, from what I recall,
right.
That was it.
That was it.
Yeah,
that's right. But we knew that the crypt had been corrupted. It was clear that it was no longer as it should have been. You knew all that, didn't you?
Well, I figured it out.
That doesn't. You are a smart man. I know that. I just think that you're just too quick. Like, you're just quick. That's what it is. Like, I'm not giving away information. You just can put things together so easily. That's why you're so wise
and handsome
and smart.
Zuko speaks up and says, "I can tell too."
Bargo like tries to mask him, going like, "Damn it!"
This is why he had to leave Bogtown.
Exactly. This is now. You guys all know what happened. So yeah, he sees now that even Zuko sees through him. Because okay, look,
Zuko
I just got a lot of things. Apparently, you both are very perceptive. I really didn't want to put anybody in undue danger by giving too much information. He's already lying again. But I will. Let me come clean. Like, you are my new allies, so I'll basically tell you actually the full truth of what I do know, which will line up with the things that we've encountered together. So I won't, try to deceive you in any way.
Okay. So you guys hear about that he and 2 companions and a handful of hirelings made their way out to this, following this map that they bought from not a shop, but from some sketchy robed guy, which again is actually probably in Bogtown, not in Ironguard Mott, because that was actually where that particular expedition set out from, not from Helix, but from Bogtown. And after the breaking into this Guardian Barrow, which was separate from the Barrow Mounds themselves. It's just like the one that you've heard Badonk talk about. It was separate. They made their way in. They faced undead threats. They successfully retrieved a mace from this, a fairly impressive enchanted mace, as well as some other handful of other magical stuff, or I should say treasure, and then made their way back. But then in the weeks afterwards, his ally, whose name I have forgotten, Hemden, is that his name? Huxley,
yeah.
Huxley actually went missing, as well as the mace. And after that, Ruggan and Bargle asked around a bit, but then Ruggan, I don't know, what do you think happened with you and Ruggan?
I think that Ruggan's a dwarf, if I remember it right.
Yeah, Ruggan's a dwarf, and I think he's a rogue as well, too.
So we get along. I think I kind of abandoned the search.
Yep.
Because I just decided it was just some random chance, because it wasn't like this had happened multiple times and there was a pattern. So I just decided, well, Huxley went off and did his own thing, and this is something that I do all the time. I suddenly leave a town and I go somewhere else and I disappear on purpose.
Yeah.
And Ruggan was like, no, you're totally wrong. There's something up here. I'm gonna go try to find it.
Sure.
And so we kind of parted ways at that point, and that's when I then kind of came to join this other group.
Awesome. So, and you may be aware of this, George, but all of those names are from the Red Box.
Yeah, no, it's
Huxley,
awesome.
Ruggan. My cousin used a dwarf named Ruggan as, like, he ended up being my sidekick in the campaign we played when I was a teenager. And then, like, my first World of Warcraft character was named Ruggan. I've introduced a dwarf named Ruggan into almost every campaign, any fantasy campaign that I've actually run.
That's great.
So
I use a lot of, Fonken Hottie Peak, Beakwenders of Crudel, Radler Greyhawk, who are from AD&D Adventures, the pre-generated characters. So nice. I totally do the same thing.
Awesome. Okay, so you guys now, both Zuko, this is the first you're hearing of this stuff as well too. But Sir Yvain, that brings you up to speed on kind of what has transpired up to this point.
Zuko's eyes are like wide. He's like, I picked a good group. It's okay, Bargo. I lost people too. I'm with you till the end, which is probably tomorrow at noon. We'll see.
So what do you make of all this, Sir Yvain?
Well, so I'm going to start by telling them what I know about these Guardian Barrows, about how there's 4 of these barrows. Each of them has something in it, and it seems to be all weapons, and these were laid down originally to protect the people of this area from the evil within the Barrowmaze itself. But over time, it seems they have been corrupted by evil, and they're no longer doing the job of protecting the place. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we have this kind of growing pattern of the objects being rescued from these barrows and then going missing, because Sir Albus had a sword from the Guardian Barrow that disappeared as well. And we know that somehow in the presence of all 4 of them, they're more powerful than they are kind of individually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one other factor I think that you might want to consider too.
Mm-hmm.
What is the other thing that has transpired that suggests something is afoot?
Well, I'm gonna switch over to talking about the stealing the information next.
Okay.
I'm gonna be a little less generous with Bargle in this part.
That's fair. That's fair. Totally fair.
That's great.
So, kind of puts one arm around Bargle, and it's heavy. He's in full plate armor. He's got a gauntlet around his shoulder, and I kind of, I don't know if you try to move at all, Bargle, but you can feel Sir Yvain is big and strong, and he holding you in place. And it says, allow me to tell you a story of what happened to the priest of what was
Arcantral.
I know priest of Arcantral, but tell him the story about this priest of Arcantral who was sending out information about these barrows, these guardian barrows, and then was murdered.
Yeah.
And the information never reached its intended destination and was not sent to the the Crusaders of Arcantral, but instead has been passed into who knows where, and perhaps even into the hands of unsavory fellows who might be willing to give maps to unsuspecting adventuring parties.
That's terrible.
Yeah. You think you might know anything about that? Ring a bell at all?
You know, now that you mention it, it does kind of sound a little similar, but I would have no way of knowing, where the map came from. So I don't blame myself, nor should anybody, because I was just, it was just commerce, just general commerce. I didn't ask a lot of questions, but now I'm learning. I need to ask more questions. So you're totally right. We should find that guy.
Bargle, let's see here. Would you give me... I think it'll just be... Oh, why don't you give me a Arcana check, please?
Okay,
It's
here
just
we go.
racking your memory.
28.
Whoa! So there's one bit of... Or sorry, you know what? What is your occultism bonus?
Not as good. It is 9.
Plus 9. Okay, and what is your Arcana? Oh, plus 11.
Actually, it's the same. Oh no, it's two off.
Two less, yeah, because
So,
I think you're trained in occultism. So, and the reason is because Arcana is like, trained, the sophisticated, accepted kind of magic that most sentient species use. Occultism is that, like, bizarre, hidden lore kind of stuff. And this would definitely fall under this category. One thing
Zuko
that...
likes those.
Sorry?
Zuko likes that.
Zuko likes that, oh, does he? Yeah, yeah. I love, like, it's one of the little thematic changes they made in PF2 that I fucking love. It allows you to have that, like, I know magic without being like, I'm studied in, ancient secrets from thousands of years ago, It's not, it's cool that they parse it out into two. But anyway,
Yeah.
Bargle, what you did, because I think this actually came up in the session, I need to go back and rewatch it to be sure, but you did notice that there was a, the guy who sold you the map, he did have one distinctive marking that you think he didn't intend for you to see, and it was only because of just like the way his the what do you call it, the light fell. His hair was back. It was long hair, but it was back from his neck, and on his neck he had a brand in the shape of a ram's skull.
Okay, cool. I'm actually gonna relay that now to Sir Yvain.
Well, with
Hey,
your
the one-
amazing Arcana roll, you actually know precisely what that was. This is the marking of the demon god Orcus.
Oh, shit.
Orcus is the god of undead, death, and the underworld. The symbol is a white ram head on a black field, but his followers often brand themselves with that mark. And Orcus and his quote-unquote brother Set are the children of Nurgle. Nurgle was the god of death, and said to have been cast out by his sons Set and Orcus. Sir Yvain, you would know them. Orcus you would know as Malum Mortis, and Set as Jakul Mortis. And Nurgle you would know as Osum Mortis. And you would probably have some kind of, like, sinister-looking tome that would have like like kind of a deific genealogy of these things in your mind. But Bargle, you know that this is Orcus is a a grasping, basically everything you can think of, all the worst shit about Orcus in D&D is pretty much personified in Orcus.
Okay, so I'm gonna say that I tried to ignore that fact when I first encountered the guy.
Yep.
Because I really needed the money. So the map was important. But now all these things are coming together, I'm worried that somehow I'm gonna be targeted by the cult of Orcus now. Because I have a healthy dose of paranoia.
Yep.
Because I'm constantly making enemies. So, but inadvertently, not my fault. So I will then tell Serbian, I'll describe the symbol just to make sure that makes the same sense to you. But my belief that this is, a member, he's an Orcus worshiper at the very least, who sold me the map, and perhaps therefore they are somehow involved in the desecration of these guardian crypts. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
This is why Zuko doesn't worship gods. They suck.
Well, this one, I wouldn't say it out loud, but
Orcus sucks. I said it.
I want to check.
The fire that is near you.
Yeah. Well, I actually want to look around and see if anybody's listening to us.
Sure.
Because we haven't been secretive about this information.
No.
Talking.
What's your perception score?
My perception
Bonus?
is an 8.
Plus 8.
Yeah.
Nat 20.
Okay.
Give me 1 sec here. I want to check one quick thing here.
Zuko keeps glancing over the fire.
Well, so here's one neat thing. This is not a PF2 thing. This is a Barrowmaze thing. But here's the one one thing I really love about this product too. And you'll notice that they do the same thing in Forbidden Caverns of Archaea, George. But they have... I say they, it's Greg Gillespie. Has included a... basically, it's a table that has random percentages of who's in the tavern.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. So like that, it's a little check mark too. So like it's designed for you to print off, and then here we go. This is what it looks like.
As you use them, you know which ones you used already.
Well, you know who's in the town. You can sit down with your dice and roll through,
see.
and then this is the list of people who are in town, and the adventure companies that might be in town as well too. The percentages based on time of day, and then you roll, and then you tick off who's in there and who's not.
Oh, I love it.
So like if your players are looking for, is Sella in today? I want to go talk to her. No, she's not in today. Maybe you have to go looking elsewhere.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. Another nice little bit of kind of like a way of playing up the verisimilitude and the living, breathing nature of the setting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. This is I think the third or fourth iteration of Barrowmaze that he published. So definitely.
Oh, right.
Right, because he had published them like parts of it individually before.
Yep, that's right.
And this was the actual outgrowth. I'm stalling because I'm trying to find the chart I need, or I'm filling dead air, I should say.
Well, I can fill some dead air for you because I emailed you, and so there's this errata about the wizard, and so I had an extra feat that I wasn't supposed to have based on the ruling, the actual version of the rules that they're going to put out. So for my 4th level character, it's just easy. I'm not going to take a new wizard feat. I'll just say that's one of the ones I had to make it easy. So and then I took my other feat's going to wind up just being to take a skill, take training and a skill. So which ideally would be medicine, but we'll see if I can find somebody. Okay,
I'm fine with you having said that you've been sort of trying to pick up on that stuff anyway. This is a dangerous place, so...
I've seen a lot of people being treated along the way, so I know... And the good thing is I know what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
So I've been learning from everybody.
Zuko's suggestion is always apply... apply fire?
Right, exactly.
Well, my fire can heal, it's just my fingers don't do well.
Okay, let's see here. Okay. I think what you see is there is a woman in here who I think that you may have recognized her from around town, partly because she's an attractive woman who looked like she's had kind of a rough, life. If you picture Lena Headley's character from Judge Dredd, I'm kind of picturing her like she's like, you know, seasoned but like tough, and she seems to be really intently listening in, and she is trying very, very hard to be inconspicuous. But because of your crit success, you're picking up both that she's, you know, listening in on you guys, but also is doing a, you know, if it was not for you, you know, being normally the one who's eavesdropping, that you can actually pick up that she is clearly like leaning back a little better to try and cocking an ear to make sure she can hear what you guys are saying. And with that,
I recognize this because this is something that I do all the time.
yeah.
So I kind of nudge Sir Yvain and kind of indicate, like, look over there. We're being listened to. Without saying it, I just try to do it.
Yeah.
By,
she's dressed like a hunter of some kind too. Like her clothes are it's traveling clothes that look well worn and stained, you know, with travel. And
you said we've seen her before.
Yeah.
In town, but she's definitely not a local.
No, she is, I mean, kind of like you guys. She must be, you took her to be an adventurer. She seemed to, the people who generally hang out in the Brazen Strumpet who have that kind of look to them are generally adventurers. It's people who are trying to get into the Barrowmoor. Either people who are hiring on with Osen's trade, or the Osen's Mercenary Guild, and they're serving as caravan guards going from here to, back to, Ironguard Mont or to Bogtown or elsewhere in the northern reaches or further south, or there's someone who is waiting to, you know, put an expedition together.
And is she far away from us? Like, how if we want to talk about her, how quiet do we have to be?
You're gonna have to make now that you're aware that she's listening in, it'll be a deception check against her perception.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, for now, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna indicate to both Sir Yvain and Zuko that, hey, I'm just gonna kind of nod towards her and then kind of look away and not look, so we are not all looking in her direction at the same time.
Okay.
Zuko wants to know, does Sal want a diversion, or I can make noise?
I just kind of signal the no diversions. That's okay. Don't call attention to us. I wonder if we should continue this conversation elsewhere.
Or perhaps introduce ourselves.
You know what? I think that's you're probably right. You know, keep your enemies closer. Sounds good. I will follow you.
Well, he could just seduce her. I mean, you know, he's good looking.
I know this is true, and I am not well skilled in that department. So I will let you take the lead. So I'll follow Sir Yvain.
Let's start with talking. Stand up with my mug and start walking over there.
Okay. So we're
no bard.
We are in the rules-wise. We're in the exploration mode right now. So maybe we'll just quickly take a peek at our rules for exploration mode. Okay. So to kind of provide a polite introduction would be a diplomacy check. Make an impression. That's what you're trying to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So why don't we, let me, actually, I know what her particular demeanor is, and I have, George, do we happen to him? Boom.
Oh, nice.
Remember when I found that table, that weird, like, not weird, but I mean, like, it's just not in other editions, where you set the starting, depending on how the characters are acting, what the starting demeanor will be for things?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been using that in this campaign now.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
I find that to be super helpful, actually.
Yeah.
This happens all the time.
It does, yeah, especially with this kind of campaign where it's...
and it keeps it different, yeah, when it's like sandbox.
Yeah. Okay, so she is... you walk up, she's giving no indication. If she does notice that you're approaching, she gives no indication that she knows. What do you say as you walk up?
Do you mind if me and my friend here, feels terrible to drink alone. Why don't we sit down and share stories for a little while?
Okay, why don't you give me a diplomacy check. Let's see how that goes over. Because you rock the charisma as well, too. So.
Yeah, that's right.
I do rock the charisma. I don't rock the internet connection.
Oh, well, that's pretty good.
It's okay.
Okay.
Zuko is very charismatic.
She turns and she does an up and down on you. She says, "Fuck off, priest." And "Fuck off, wizard." And then goes back to her drink. As if, like, doesn't even notice that you're, or acknowledge that you're there any longer.
I mean, if I've heard that once, I've heard it 1,000. I mean,
Zuko goes,
I just want to I want to give her the once over now that we're closer, just to see if I notice, I don't know, like a tattoo of any kind.
Yeah, let's see. No, I mean, apart from the description I gave you before, kind of like Lena Headley dressed like Aragorn, that's effectively...
Okay, I just wanted to see if she had that same kind of like hidden mark that the
Ooh, so that...
guy in Icon did.
She has, no, I mean, as is often the for winter travel, she does have a high collared thing, so you'd have to actually either get the collar down or like push her hair out of the way, or...
All right, I'm gonna go do.
I mean, Bargle does strike me as a guy who'd touch a woman's hair without asking. So...
I'm sure he would, but I don't want to do that.
remember about not pushing it too far?
Yeah, I go
Pushing
like this,
too
and
far.
I hear Zuko, and I'm like, so I turn away and I don't do it.
So I'm gonna grab one of the chairs and sit. I'm assuming table is a circle like this, and she's sitting here.
She's
at the
sitting at
top.
the bar.
Oh, she's sitting at the bar. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm gonna go to one side and motion for Bargle to go to the other.
That's great. So I think as you start to immediately walk, your reaction is, I'm just gonna walk right up. I immediately walk away, and then I realize you're like, no. And I come back and I follow your instructions. So
Zuko is going to go do a performance off to the side and get the music going, just so he can make, set the mood or something.
Okay.
He's going to use some other thing, do a Calvin song.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, that could help maybe put her in a better mood.
Okay. So she makes no, keeps drinking her drink and makes no indication that she that you're sitting next to her whatsoever.
Hey,
I kind of
I'm
look
performing.
over to
Knock it
Sir
off.
Yvain. I look over to Sir Yvain and like shrug my shoulders, like
You lean behind the...
exactly.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm like don't ask me. I'm bad at this.
It's not a particularly nice way to introduce yourself, my lady. Perhaps we got off on the wrong foot somehow. My name is Sir Yvain. This is Bargle, and we'd love to know yours.
No response.
Ah, see, very quiet. Perhaps we should be you around. Is she whatever she's drinking? I'll just kind of look at it, and I'll just
So
say.
you're sort of doing that, and then Tacy comes over. She puts her hand on your shoulder, and she says, "I think the lady made her preferences clear."
Bargle, this happens very fast. Barble's actually smart, unlike me. So George, need more time to think through it. But this happens at lightning speed for him. He's deciding how much he needs this information, and he doesn't want to piss off Tacy. So,
well, one thing to bear in mind too, like just this is still there's not a necessary route to success here either.
Mm-hmm.
Like not just because I'm letting you roll dice and we're interpreting the dice, that doesn't necessarily mean there is a route to getting stuff.
Totally.
Right?
No.
So,
I totally. I'm just trying to. Bargle's trying to always like hedge all of his bets.
Yeah.
So
One thing you can bear in
mind.
This is just it's a small town bar. If in particular for this time of year too, like it would be conspicuous you guys going up and sitting with. The bar is probably like at quarter capacity, if that. So, if this person is often drinking on their own, there's all sorts of people that come through here. That's where that is likely where she's coming from this. But you definitely know that this person was eavesdropping, though.
Right, and that's the thing. Like that, she's trying to process whether it's more important to get more information about her right now in this moment,
sure,
or to listen to Tacy. And so what he comes up with is the idea that he's like, of course, yes, we didn't mean to bother anyone. We were just being friendly. And so he'll get up and just wave to Sir Yvain and go back over and watch Zuko and clap for Zuko.
Okay. Nice.
And I'll throw a copper at him.
Sir Yvain, what are you doing?
I'm not talking to her anymore, but I am still at the bar,
Okay.
basically. And I'll sort of raise a hand to Tacy, like, I understand.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking we could kind of later. I say to Zuko, actually. Well, no, he's playing. So I'll just. I won't say
so
anything.
Tacy shoots a look at Bargle of like gesturing. I mean, Sir Yvain is quite young and quite, fresh out of the Abbey kind of stuff. So I think she looks at as if like Bargle knows, this type of situation a little better, and kind of like, gestures towards Sir Yvain with her head.
So I get that she wants me to do something about this, but he knows that Sir Yvain, when he puts his mind to something, he does it.
Okay.
He thinks for a moment and like tries not to make it look like a bigger scene, make it a bigger deal, and then he sort of saunters back up and he orders another drink for himself. I said, Sir Yvain, can I get you another drink? I wanted to continue that discussion we were having. Perhaps we can continue back at our table. And I make sure that she hears all of that.
Yep.
Ballo is the name of the barkeep, right?
Yep, Ball's the owner.
So, Sir Yvain is going to say, well, in a minute, I had a question I thought I'd ask Ballo.
Oh, of course.
Yep.
I will see you there.
Ballo
I'll bring your drink over there.
Walks over and says, all right, boy, what kind of, you had a question?
And he's going to point at the symbol, say, how does Brother Otar feel about that?
He looks down. Brother Otar, it's none of his concern.
So we're having interesting discussions about gods and other fine figures over at the other table, and we're thinking that, you might be able to enlighten us about yours.
I'm no priest, boy. I couldn't. I could not do the faith justice, but like many out here, we grew up with. We were raised in the shadow of the Angramak, and that is to who our the new faith is welcome and has brought many benefits. And Brother Othar is a good man, but some of us still honor the traditions of our forefathers.
And so that's when Sir Yvain turns in his stool or chair or whatever it is at the bar and says, and what about you, my lady? Anything you wish to tell us about your gods?
And at that, Ballo sort of leans on the table and says, all right, Yvain, I don't truck with my faith being pushed on anyone, and I'd appreciate that you follow Brother Othar's example and not do the same. The lady's here to drink, as are you.
Another time, then.
She makes no indication that she's... Yeah. Okay, what do you do?
And then I'll walk back to the table and kind of circle up.
Yeah.
Let's move out.
Okay, so you sit down. What do you guys do? So you were when this whole thing kind of started, Bargle. You had noticed that someone was listening in. Now, one thing, guys, I want to point out is gather information is one of the downtime actions you can do, or your exploration phase actions you could do too. There are 3 barmaids in here, including Tacy, and Tacy seems to at least liked you before, Sir Yvain. You could also talk to Ballo. You could also talk to other people in town. You guys are relatively new here, so you haven't made deep connections with any of the, the residents just yet. But, that is an opportunity. And Sir Yvain, in spite of how things went with her, you are normally really well liked around here as well. Mm-hmm. You're sort of chasing on the benefits of the impression that Sir Albus left on everyone here too. So I don't know. So I mean, if you wanted to, that is one way you might be able to learn who this person is.
I mean, that's my next, strategy, I think, is to try to ask around, and then if that doesn't work, or if we want additional information, to try to follow her. But I'm not great at. I'm gonna guess I'm probably not great. What is a society role? What kind of role is it to
do
gather information?
Diplomacy.
Diplomacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's right.
There's feats that,
I know that I'm not great at it.
Yeah, there's feats that'll let you use other things instead. I think the streetwise feat lets you use society instead of diplomacy for gathering information.
Gotcha. So I know that I'm always on the borderline of getting kicked out of here for obvious reasons, and that's the narrative explanation of my diplomacy being 0.
Yeah.
So I kind of turn to my companions and say, I'm happy to back you up, but I probably shouldn't take the lead.
Why don't I call Tacey over and see if we can?
Okay, so it's going to have to be. What's going to happen is I just looked at the rules for it. So it's going to be a flat DC. It's not going to be based on levels, because it's going to be on how hard that information is, how obscure the information is. That depends on what the training level is to set the difficulty of it. But they suggest takes about 2 hours. So I think what you'll have to do is, like, it's not going to be a simple matter of like, hey Tacey, who is that woman?
Yeah. No. Well, and I don't know if there's any way to alter this, but I was thinking I'd at least start with apologizing and basically say, "Oh, I must have had too much drink. I don't know what came over me. If you could, send my condolences to Ballo and to the lady."
She leans down and okay, here, let's do this. Why don't you? What was your diplomacy check from before? It was 20, right? Why don't you give me another diplomacy? I think because of the apologetic stuff and because of the impression you've made thus far as kind of like the shiny new replacement for Sir Albus, why don't you get +2 on top of whatever you roll? Let's see, and then we'll role play this through.
Ooh, I think I'm going to use a hero point right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. So let's take a look. I think that might. I don't think that is, because it's an expert difficulty. Where the heck did I put my? Oh, my screen's right here. I was actually pulling out because for tonight's session, we were down a couple more players than I realized, and I'm like, I need to write something. So I was grabbing a bunch of old school stuff to roll up some random things, and I ended up tossing all that and rolling and just writing something different. So simple DC, yeah. So that's a success, but not a critical success. So I think what happens is you guys sit down and if there's other conversations you guys would have to fill in time, we'll say that. But after about an hour and a half more of sitting around and Zuko doing his thing on stage, then that woman gets up and makes her way out of the brazen strumpet, and the way she's bundling herself up, you guess she's gone for the evening. And that's when you kind of have an opportunity to call her over and be sure that the other customers won't hear. But you stop her over. Tacey's walking by, and this is what would you like refills again, boys? It's been a long day.
Yes, definitely.
Did Zuko make any money?
No.
You made a copper.
Yes, I did.
I threw a copper, remember? So.
I was going to buy a round for everybody, but nope. They were stingy.
Sir Yvain, that now would be an opportunity for do whatever apologies you want to make.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say, kind of like I said, I must have had too much to drink. I don't know what came over me, but please ensure. It would mean a great deal to me.
Don't
allow me to apologize to you, and you to pass on my apologies to our host. And
don't think anything of it. For one, now that you've met your new companions, be sure to ask Wes to tell you about the time when he decided to take a dip in his cups, and you can ask him if he knows where Barwood and Greg are, and he'll know what what he's talking about, or what you're talking about. And as for her, Ballo, as you know, Ballo allows this is the doors are open to anybody to come and have a pint. But that one, you really couldn't have picked a pricklier pear to try and pluck there, my son. You need to work on your judgment.
Can you... Prickly, how exactly? I mean, obviously she didn't respond very well to us, but, you know, is she always like that?
I've seen her for 2 seasons now, coming and going. She's one of the types, caravan hire. She seems to be interested in the comings and goings of the caravans and the comings and goings of the cruise to the Barrowmaze, and or the cruise heading out into the Barrow Moor, and the response you got is the response I've seen everyone get from that one. The only thing I know is her name is Renata.
Maybe she likes goblins.
Maybe, little one. Maybe.
Yeah.
But, no. Apart from that, I know she's around in the summer. It's the first winter I've seen her stay. But... You best find better... You will find better luck in other pastures. Wait for the summer to come. The summer will bring many new faces. She got pats in the shoulder. Another drink then, boys?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great idea.
Kind of looks at you.
I keep drinking. I had like 4 drinks in the last 20 minutes.
So she looks over at Ballo and she says, 2 more pints and 1 late night special. And what the late night special is extremely watered down beer. So
it's great. How do you know? That's what I always get at the end of the night.
All right. So anything else happen in the evening that you guys want to role play through, or you want to talk about? You're in the midst of talking about those plans when you notice that Renata was listening in.
Right. I'm going to say that some of my senses returned to me because I have such a watered down last beverage.
Yep.
So that I can remember that was happening before.
Okay.
And I say I think we should definitely find out more about her, and she's something going on there. But what were we talking about before that? We were on to something. I feel like there's potentially. So we know.
Remember the Orcus.
Right,
Remember
that's
Orcus.
it. Orcus. Orcus is at work, it seems, or his cult
Orcus
or
of fire.
something. Do we know how many of the 4? How many do we know for sure between the 3 of us? How many do we know for sure of those guardians have been desecrated? It's in some way desecrated or corrupted or whatever is happening to them.
Zuko never seen any, but he heard you mention 2, like a mace and a sword.
Yes. That's all we heard. So, have any of you heard of any others in your
Well,
travels?
Didn't we hear rumors about a third?
I thought so.
A third guardian barrow being broken into?
You heard rumors of or at least the priest of Arcantral in Ironguard Mott. He had heard rumors of an expedition heading out there, but he's not certain whether they ever returned or not.
So definitely 2 that have been raided, 1 possibly, and then the 4th one we can assume is probably still intact, at least for now.
Yeah.
And
We
I
haven't heard anything about it. And
Right.
the map that Bargul had was only to the second one, right? It wasn't a map to all of them. It was just a map to the one.
Correct, yeah. And that was to the south east one, the one on the south. I'm sorry, the northeast, the northeast corner of the Barrow Mountains. So just and
Are we aware? Sorry, I would say, are we aware of whether or not those are equally spaced around?
They
in some
are,
kind
yeah.
of like,
Kind of like at the not the cardinal directions, but like
but the
equidistant to
northeast,
each other.
southeast, yeah.
At least the
Okay.
ones that are. There is the one that that Badonk and his colleagues found was in the northwest of the Barrowmoor. The one that Bargle you went to was the northeast.
Okay. So, just from my knowledge of the arcane, and I don't know as much as you do about undead, but if these are meant to be guardians, that means that the undead are seeking to be released, or someone is seeking to cause them to be released. And perhaps if all four of these barrows are corrupted, it will allow them to spread beyond the Barrowmoor and perhaps overtake other lands.
So
what do you think?
Knowing the, I think that on one of the tables here there is the carved kind of rough map of the Duchy of Eric that you see here. So the kind of like starburst, black starburst there that is in the center that I'm pinging right now, that's where the Barrow Mounds are. So the Barrow...
so they're all confined to that one hex.
The Guardian Barrows, well, they're sort of like a little outside of it.
Okay.
So unfortunately, the two that have been accessed thus far, those are probably the easiest to reach.
Yep.
The southwest one is going to be located pretty deep in the Barrowmoor. And then even worse, the southeast one are in the headwaters in the marsh of the Moorwash River. Right around here. So like that's as bad as things are to navigate in the Barrowmoor when, in the summertime. Those are going to be even wetter. Picture like tromping around through the Everglades. That's the joy you have to look forward to in there.
Excellent. So what do you think? So do you, Zuko and Sir Yvain, do you think that we should get the rest of the party together and investigate one of these places? I suspect there's no one in this town we can ask what this might mean.
Well, it's going to be a couple days because they got to save that one guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like our priority right now is to make sure that Hendon is okay and that we've succeeded at our kind of first task, and then we'll step up to the kind of higher order task of figuring out what's going on with the malefic influence over the Barrowmaze.
Yeah.
And was there anything, so when we went to the crypt with the two girls, the vampiric girls, was there anything about, I'm trying to recall, so I'm trying to like rely on my intellect and my recollection, maybe it's perception, I'm not sure what would make most sense, but I'm trying to just recall if it seemed like the crypt had been in whatever way desecrated or corrupted, whatever the right term is, recently, or it seemed like it happened, sometime in the past and people weren't aware of it. Well, I meant to tell that, but
yeah. Well, what you know is that from you did you use your mystic senses to try and detect, and even more so than the prevalent kind of stink of necrotic power that suffuses the moor and the mounds. It was even more powerful in that tomb. Right. And it just looked aged. It looked like as if the weight, what you would have. I'm not sure what you, without training in religion, I'm not sure what you would have expected necessarily. Right. But the fact that it was so grimy and so clearly, filthy with the weight of ages, that not only the power of the necrotic influence, it seemed like the stink and the moisture and whatever else of the Barrowmoor. It was actually, now that I remember, it was actually partly flooded, even.
Right.
There was
so it would seem to me that it had been exposed to the elements for quite a while, like that had not been sealed up which I kind of bring up to Sir Yvain. Is that something that you would expect? Would they normally, these kinds of crypts or burial mounds or whatever you want to call it, barrows, would they normally be fully sealed? Do you know?
They certainly were originally.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All the mounds that you've heard, I mean, this is not anything new. You would have known this from venturing out, Bargle, is that it's often the two things that are the most valuable tools that you bring along on the expedition to the Barrow mounds are a shovel to excavate the entrances in some cases, and sledgehammers to break the heavy stone lids or stone doors that are set, these slabs set across them to prevent them from opening. Not all of them, have survived the ages or the predations of tomb robbers and other adventurers, but the that particular one, I think it was trapped, in fact. You may have lost your first henchman that way. I may be confusing it with something else, but I mean, it's... Yeah, I don't think it was... I
get the idea, though, that we would expect them to normally be completely intact and have to actually break in. So if this one was open to the elements and things were just, growing inside or etc., it wasn't. It didn't happen yesterday. And I actually realized that I already was trained in medicine. So by tomorrow, I'm going to be trained in religion.
Nice.
So I'm learning all of this stuff now,
and
kind of like building a little internal library.
Sure. Okay.
So I do. So you think we should stay here? And is there anything we can do to help Hendon? It sounded like perhaps there's something we could add to the process.
No, it doesn't seem like there's much. They'll call you if they need you, and it seems like after a few hours in the Brazen Strumpet, they have not called for you at all. So,
Well, so do you think we should perhaps? It's a 4-hour journey to get to the. Well, this will be. How much do we guess that because this is these other two are farther of a journey? It might be, not counting like potential problems that we wouldn't be aware of, but.
In the winter?
Yeah, so it took us, I think, was it 4 hours each way?
That was to get to like normally in the summer months. It takes you. Let's see here.
I just can't remember the exploration mini game that we did. If it was
well, it took you 6 hours to get out to the Troll Cave and back.
Okay,
and that wasn't as. That was
far.
Closer than what the Guardian Barrows would be, even the closest Guardian Barrow. So, it's generally strongly like the things you have not come across are like I mentioned out of character last time that or maybe it was off air, but there are also like magical manifestations of the winter out here as well too. So imagine a localized snowstorm that has the wraith type ability of draining life energy.
Zuko's nightmare of death.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's not great. Bargle doesn't like that. He literally says that in the third person.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's nothing we can do tonight. That's certain. So perhaps we should get a good night's sleep and see how Hendon is doing in the morning.
Yeah.
And then confer with our allies and see what else transpires between now and then that may change our minds about how we should proceed.
Okay.
If that makes sense to you.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I think we should do.
Okay. Anybody else wish to do anything before you guys tied in? The other heroes are not going to come and collect you until the morning. Anything else you wish to do?
Nope.
No?
Zuko tired.
Zuko tired.
I think before actually going to sleep, Sir Yvain is probably gonna. He doesn't like polish it to a complete sheen, but kind of cleans off each plate of his armor and puts it back so that it's burnished.
So we're actually going to pick up. There is a scene involving Sir Yvain.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone turns in for the evening. So let me, the sound of the merriment in the tavern kind of dies down. And the only thing you can hear is the howling wind outside the window. You get into your room, and as much as the merriment, I mean, at this point, if Zuko is tiding in or going to bed as well, there's likely, it's just people talking and late night talk, kind of chatting, taking advantage of the fire as long as they're able to before Ballo or Tacey kicks them out. You guys head up, Sir Yvain. It is what's the exhausting process we see you go through as you're finally stripping off this armor?
Well, it's a lot of layers, right? And normally in real life, you have a squire to do this, and Sir Yvain doesn't have a squire. So it turns out it's actually possible to do by yourself, because people in the modern era who don't have squires have done it. But it's definitely an exhausting, right? It's a whole bunch of straps to untie, and it's one plate off, and then another plate off, and then another plate off, and then it's.
I imagine, like, as you're going through this too, like what we're seeing is that there's giant bruises that you didn't, know were there, and there's cuts that, where an arrow slipped through or something like that. Like, there's bloody bandages you're tearing away, and those, the poultices that Wes had put on you as well too, using the natural ingredients. I picture it's a hammered tin mirror that you've got in your room, so it's nothing super fancy, but you kind of rub it. And do you think this is the first time that you've actually been in proper gritty battle?
I think so. I think I've been I've trained with the fellow acolytes or whatever we call them for Arcantrol.
Yeah.
But not serious like this, certainly.
Okay. So yeah, what's going through your mind then as you're seeing like this? Some of this stuff is going to scar on your.
So it's kind of a sobering realization, sort of, and part of it also is there's just in the chaos and the adrenaline and all that sort of stuff. There's those sort of minor wounds that he just plain forgot, and is now kind of seeing again and realizing how bad some of the stuff is, and he's kind of stripped down. He can also see probably that his armor is in need of repairs if it's going to be at full capacity, that it's not just him that was damaged, it's kind of everything. And he's holds up his sword and can see the kind of nicks along the edge of the blade where it met steel and has been damaged too, and he's sort of feeling like all of him has been kind of weathered by the difficulty of
and your shield too, right? Like if you're looking at your shield, you can maybe there's flashbacks to the big hit from the skeletons, and then that big owl bear hit that splintered your shield the first time.
Yep.
So you set all that stuff aside. You're down in your, just to your, whatever your undergarments, and you've grabbed your, it's hard to know where to start with this stuff because everything is filthy. Everything's caked with snow and mud and whatever, blood, human and otherwise, or half elf in your case and otherwise. You grab the first thing and you start getting ready to clean it off. And you realize gosh, I maybe should get a basin of water or something like that to try and do this. And that's when you hear outside, you hear this kind of the sound that it makes when you put your finger and you run it along a wet pane of glass. You can hear that from the second story window that looks out from your room.
Mm-mm. So I'm gonna, holding my sword in one hand, go over to the window and sort of hear.
So you walk over there carefully, and it's because of the lighting in your room. I picture you've got maybe like a small, not like a lantern, but like a little lamp, like maybe an oil lamp. You kind of can bring it over, and because of the lighting in here, obviously it makes it like it's pitch black outside. It's although you're half elf, so you do have low light vision. You can see two things. One, someone is slowly tracing from the outside a symbol on one of the many glass panes that makes up the lattice work of this window. Along. You don't need to make a roll to see what this is. It's the symbol of Arcantral. The interlocking squares. And then... But the second thing you see, there is no hand making that gesture. It is just appearing as if some finger was tracing along there. And it has the imperfections that you would see as if you would just drew it on a, a moist pane. If you're standing right now, maybe about 7 feet away from the window. If you want to get a better vantage, you might want to get to it. Closer.
Yeah, I want to go, essentially, unless something interrupts me, all the way up and kind of put my hand on the pane on the inside with the symbol of Arcantral.
So you carefully, by the time you make it there, the entire symbol has been drawn. And remember that the symbol of Arcantral is not a well-accepted faith out here. Not only is it part of the Futurus, the pantheon of new gods that have come out here, it's not part of the Angramak that have been here for millennia. In addition, Arcantral has not made the inroads that, like, say, Saint Yig has. Mm-hmm. So you get up there and you place your hand, and we sort of see, like, you see your hand, and then you sort of see past it and down at the side. And what you see standing outside in the darkness, legs disappearing in the ice fog that clings around there, staring up at you. A white apparition, wearing the same tabard you are, the same armor you are. But one thing that stands out to you that Wes told you, there is an empty scabbard. From what you can tell, what looks up at you is the specter of Sir Albus. Now, let's take our mid-session break right now, guys.
Nice.
2 cliffhangers.
Yeah, exactly.
I had that image of the rock guy from Ragnarok saying, "Get out of here, stupid ghost." Beat a ghost.
Okay, so
that was good.
Let's just take 5 minutes, guys. I mean, it'll probably take 3 minutes, but
Yeah.
go, deal with old man
Perfect.
bladders and refresh our beverages, and then we'll be back to see what Sir Yvain does.
Perfect.
Oh, wait, I'll put on, now that we've got, what do you call it? We've got some intermission music. Let's,
Oh, we do.
There we go.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Okay, we are off. Oh, man.
Brought one of my little furries. I got a sugar glider in here.
You got a witch in there? Sorry?
A sugar glider.
A
A sugar glider. It's a marsupial from Australia.
Oh, okay, cool.
And her name is Mary.
Oh, I didn't even see. My goodness. What a little cutie.
They're nocturnal, so she should be sleeping.
Jeez.
May make some racket, but
It's your animal companion.
We're familiar.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, man.
So, Ken, did you get the condition cards?
I did, yeah.
So I don't know if you take a look at them, but I got them today, and they have these awesome trackers.
Yeah.
For like conditions or durations, and you kind of put it next to the thing like that, and then you change it as it moves along, which is a smart idea. I've never seen that before.
Well, it's a great like there's a lot of the Fantasy Flight games, in particular. Warhammer Fantasy Third made really, really, really good use of like the things that you use in complex board games to track mechanics and like things like that. They did a really, really good job of that. Maybe a little overboard with it, to the point that they abandoned all of that stuff for the Star Wars games. But it's a shame that they decided to get rid of all of it, because some of those things are just like those innovations for board games. They're good ways of tracking if you're playing at the table. Like,
especially in a game like this where there are tracks where like you are like suffering additional like wounds or poison or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah. I'm waiting for my critical fumble, critical success things to come in.
Yeah, they're not available yet. Is that right? Or are
they? I think I just got shipped. I got notification that that's coming along.
You either have the best luck in the world, or things get released early in Canada because
it's coming from Paizo. It's because I subscribe. So I've got things that are coming are Alien Archive 3, the final adventure in the Dawn of Flame adventure path, the first adventure in the Attack of the Swarm adventure path, the Lost Omens World Guide is coming.
Yeah, see, and that it says it's not being released till October, like the World Guide. So that's
this is the Lost Omens. Oh, it's the World Guide.
Yeah. It says, like, if you go to Amazon right now, it'll say October 19th or something.
Maybe they...
Which would be cool as a subscription. Like,
so there is a player's guide and there's a world guide.
Yeah.
Right?
The player's guide is coming out even later.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm going to make sure.
Paizo subscription service is pretty reasonable. Like, you're paying for your shipping, but it's 15% off pretty much everything that they do. And you get a free PDF copy of most things, not the core rulebooks, but most other things. And you get a, if you have a certain number of subscriptions, then you also get free access to either Starfinder or Pathfinder Society stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
and I just double checked it now, and on Amazon, the World Guide is September 10th, and the character guide is not till
so that's probably around when it'll show,
it'll
be
arrive to
you. Little earlier, but
it's cool.
I don't know.
I already pre-ordered it, so
yeah, it's well, Paizo knows what side their bread's buttered on, right?
That's right.
My bread's buttered on, at least.
Yeah, all of us.
Yeah,
we're single-handedly keeping everybody in business, unfortunately. Like stacks of books here. On both sides of me.
I just, as a non sequitur, I had my black cube for Invisible Sun showed up on things, and I've not seen my parents react to a gaming product as much as they did with that. They're like, "This thing is so pretty," and I'm like, "Yeah,
it's very cool. It's very cool.
It's very cool." I'm trying to figure out how the fuck I'm going to engage with it, because it's so much material.
There's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, but whatever. We'll cross that bridge another day.
Right.
So
I'd like to do this scene with Sir Yvain, and then I might need to go to sleep because I'm falling asleep.
Oh, for sure.
No.
Sorry, guys.
Well, no, that's fine. What we can do is
worries.
we can set up things here, and then maybe, we can call it an early session. That's fine. What? So, Sir Yvain, you can see that this spectral form, as apparition, is standing out in the cold, staring up at you. And you can tell that it's like you. It's lifeless and featureless eyes are looking directly up at you.
I'm going to put some clothes on first, and so I'm kind of not gonna, put the whole armor suit on, but basically just like, a heavy shirt and kind of a cloak around me and stuff, and still carrying. I'm gonna grab my shield too, so I've got my sword and my shield, and put on some winter boots or something, and head downstairs and walk outside.
Okay, so you get yourself all bundled up and you head towards the door, and I think Ballo makes no notice of it. He's assuming you're going to the privy, so he's going to seize you. You walk outside, and when you do, I mean that winter wind hits you, and it is, it is cold.
Yeah.
And you went out not wearing your armor?
No.
Okay.
No armor.
Okay, just wanted to see if I might hear you leave, but I definitely don't then. But I'm sound asleep.
Okay. So you step outside. The howling winds are around you. Normally, you've come to know that there is effectively a homeless guy named Alistair who sits with this dog named Mr. Paggins outside of the... But even in this bad weather, he and Mr. Paggins seem to have found shelter elsewhere. So it's just you, alone, the biting cold of the ice fog cutting through the layers that you're wearing. And the weight of the day, I mean, the weight of the last couple of days are likely making you feel the cold more so than you had. You'd be turning to your left and then around the corner to go and see where that specter is.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
Yeah. Bundle up as much as I can in the cold, and then head around. I'm picturing I've got kind of my shield sort of like strapped across my back or something. I'm not carrying it in the hand yet, and then my sword carried in hand, but not like at the ready to hit something. Just sort of on me.
Okay. So you walk over to the side and you look down, and it's not lit here. And it is a partially overcast night, so it's quite dark. It's really only your half-elven vision that affords you even a hint of what lies here. And what you spy just in time as you walk around is the spectral armored form walking around the corner to the back of the brazen strumpet.
So I'm gonna race after him.
Okay, so you're racing after. And when you get to the backyard there, and the backyard leads over to where the privy is and the stables as well, you can hear the kind of horses in the stable. There's no obvious form. You don't see where this specter has gone. And then the hairs in the back of your neck stand up as you sense something standing behind you.
So I'm gonna spin around and pull my sword up, so kind of in between me and it.
Before you get a chance to, it is so much closer than you realize. It grabs your face, and you fall into darkness. Your mind reels with the feeling. Your stomach falls out with the feeling of vertigo. And you stumble, and you see yourself standing in a clearing, it looks like. It is dark, and the clearing is illuminated by a single roaring kind of brazier set up on a pillar The pillar that keeps the brazier aloft is marked with symbols of a god that you are, or with whom you are quite familiar. That is, of course, the cross, the red cross on the white backing that marks Sir Yig. At the edge of the light cast by this blazing brazier, you can see the... well, you can't really see to the edge of what lies beyond. What's beneath your feet is fresh summertime grass. And you can see as it gets closer to the edge of the light, what's illuminated, the grass grows more and more pale, and then brown, and then pale, like beige, until it is just white at the edge. And off in the darkness, you can hear... There must be hundreds of them. Everywhere. The sound comes from every single corner. But you cannot see any of them. And that's when you hear another sound. First you see something. Something hops out of the darkness and lands on a patch of almost entirely white grass. It's a frog. And then another 20, 80, hundreds of them start coming out of the darkness and making their way towards you. They are all uniformly the same kind of greenish, brownish coloring. It's almost as if this living carpet is beginning to move towards you. And as they get closer and approach where you are standing beneath the brazier, you can actually hear their croaking is beginning to drown out the sound of the hungry dead outside. Something in your gut tells you to retreat, and you move back from where you are standing about 10 feet away from the brazier, because you've walked around a bit trying to see. These things are getting closer in a contracting circle of living, jumping amphibian flesh. What are you doing?
Kind of looking this way and that, and sort of trying not to step on any of them or anything, but kind of backing away slowly. You're
backing. If you're going to continue that strategy, you suddenly kind of bump up against the pillar, and you see the frogs are almost at your feet at this point, and having been pushed back, you hit the pillar, and the pillar begins to sort of tip and fall over. What do you do?
I'm going to do my best to grab it and hold it in place to try to prevent it from falling.
So you grab it, and the weight of this thing, I mean, it feels as if it's made of pure marble. And it stands probably, 10 feet in height. So however many hundreds of pounds this thing is, you do get you're a strong man. You get your arms around it, but the weight of it pulls you forward. And as you're thrown down into the darkness, you can hear first off, you can hear the sound of the croaking, which just, it drowns out every other sensation. And then you feel them jumping over you. And in a kind of blind panic in the darkness, you're thrashing out. And you suddenly find yourself sitting in water. And warm water at that. It stinks. It stinks like rotten eggs in here. And you're looking around. It's either early morning or late dusk, because the sky is ablaze with colors like red and orange and pink. And the setting sun silhouettes this enormous, twisting tree. It is bare of leaves or any kind of greenery, but you can tell that it's not by virtue of the season. That's how this thing stands. And it stands on its own in a bog that sprawls out in both directions. It bubbles. And the kind of hanging, clinging, looking around, the hanging and clinging greenery that makes up the Barrowmaze, or the Barrowmoor, in the summer, surrounds you. As if this giant, tall tree that stretches up naked to the sky is an edifice more than a living creature. You can see there are things moving in the bog. And you're sunk up, you're on the ground, you're sunk up to about your waist, or your chest, I should say. And again, the water is warm. Not uncomfortably so, but warm. Like a hot bath. If it didn't stink as bad, you wouldn't mind spending more time in here. And whatever wriggling things find themselves in here. As you look around too, amongst the reeds that stretch up from here, you can see skulls. But the skulls are not human. They are from some degenerate race. Something more beast, perhaps, than man. If you were more learned in the ways of nature, perhaps you might be able to even identify or take a guess at what these things might be. What you know is their skulls are wider and lower than a man, more ovoid in shape. And that's when you see, or you realize, that there is something standing next to you. And it is the spectral form of Sir Albus. And he's staring down at you, his face graven as if there is some serious import to the message he is trying to communicate. With a single gesture, he points across towards the tree. And what you see there is an enormous toad. But there, rather than the greenish brown that you saw in all those hundreds and hundreds of other toads, this one has an ebony colored skin, completely blemishless. And its giant eyes look at you soulfully, almost as if it was trying to understand. And where you got a sense of clear malice from those other things, the things that came from the darkness, that hungry darkness full of thousands of hungry dead, where those things clearly had ill intent for you. That black-skinned frog. It seems as if maybe a kindred soul? Something trying to communicate in any sense. You look from it, you finally manage to shake your eye contact from this enormous amphibian. And you look back up at Sir Albus's face. Again, the featureless eyes, the near translucent figure, all in white. And he looks at you as if to ask for a confirmation. Do you understand?
I don't think I do, but I've got an idea or two that might be.
It's morning. You're in your bed. There are other elements of that dream. Was it a dream? A seizure? You look over, and from where your room rests, it's not quite on the east, but you do face the east. So the first light of dawn is beginning to stream through your window. And still there on the window pane is the traced form of the symbol of Arcantril. What do you do?
I'm gonna first kind of toss the sheet off and check to make sure I'm all in one piece, and I don't, because one of the things that I think, you know, kind of flashed in my mind as I was going down was it's real cold out here, and I don't want to get frostbite or anything.
Yeah.
So, you know, check to make sure that I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you don't seem to have, while you have no recollection, you don't have, there's no indication that you spent any extended period in, unprotected against the elements.
Mm-hmm. And then is my sword and shield are sitting in the room with my armor and stuff?
Your shield is polished, fully restored. Your sword gleams. Your armor sits carefully. A weight of exhaustion led you from where you had last left it. It seemed you just sort of left it in a pile, and you were going to go through and clean it. That seems that is no longer necessary. Every piece of your armor has been polished, as if done by a squire with something to prove. The only other thing that lies there is a twisting, blackened branch. That was not there. What do you do?
Well, I think I'm gonna kind of do whatever my morning routine is, kind of, wash my face and start putting my armor on and kneel down and pray to Arcantril like normal and all of that sort of stuff. And then I'm gonna go. My idea is to find my friends and see if they know anything about this special tree with a special toad.
Sure.
And if not, maybe we need to go into the Barrowmoor and find a special tree with a special toad.
So what, let's see here. Arlen, are you going to be able to make it to 10?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, okay, so let's say that. We'll role play up until that point. So Sir Yvain comes down in the morning. I imagine he probably has slept in a little bit longer than what Zuko or Bargle have. Or it's around the same time. So maybe like if Zuko is the early riser, then he's down in the common room. Okay, so you guys are all sort of like straggling out at around the same time. You meet up in the common room. You have no idea where your allies are, or your newfound allies, I should say. But you do find time to sit down with each other. Let me switch our noise here. So, first off, those of you who slept, you get to gain, what is it, your Constitution modifier, minimum 1, times your level, you gain back in hit points.
Nice.
Those of you who reach 2nd or 4th level, welcome to 4th level.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Mm-hmm. And yes, what do Bargle and Zuko see as Sir Yvain comes down into the common room?
Well, he's looking a little shaken up, a little pale and stuff, and he's got this kind of odd branch in his hand, right? And they didn't see that before, so
Yeah.
who knows what's up with that?
Bargo is looking very curiously at Sir Yvain. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, no, actually, what happened? very doesn't seem like you. Are you okay? I had a great night's sleep. You look like you had a rough night.
Our friend Wes says that he, behind the tavern, saw Sir Albus one night. I saw him too. And in fact,
Really?
it seems, sent me on some sort of vision or tried to communicate something with me to explain his plight or the plight of the Barrowmaze or what it is that we must do. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll sort of give them the kind of in brief version of what happened in there, and then say, and I think what he was communicating has something to do with this tree and this toad, and that we must find the tree.
Seems very mythological and very symbolic. Perhaps they're not things. They represent things that we don't understand yet. It may not be an actual tree and an actual toad, perhaps.
Zuko wants to look at the stick.
Yeah, and I'll hand it over.
Sure. Go ahead. You're trained in nature, right?
Yes.
Yeah, give me a nature roll, please. Let's see how it is.
He holds it close to his face and squints his eyes at it and rubs them because he's got sleep in his eyes still. And
Okay, let's see here.
Zuko has some idea.
So what you know, yeah, I think what you're able to tell from this is, so this comes from a fairly unusual an unusual species of trees that can be found in the Barrowmoor and in some other parts of the northern reaches as well. It's something known as a monolith tree, a monolith oak. And a monolith oak is so called because unlike other trees, when they actually die, they become harder and more pronounced. Like more difficult to take down. So where, an entire forest could burn to ashes, what you'd be left with is a monolith oak. And they're also, like a lot of natural features, one of the things that travelers of the wild, particularly in the northern reaches, can take advantage of is the fact that the monolith oak, the oaks stand for effectively eternity, until something so cataclysmic that would rent, stone structures down to rubble. The monolith oak would stand forever. So,
man, if there's a sword stuck in a stone tree, I'm gonna lose it.
Zuko takes the stick and hits the table with it to make a sound. Does it sound like stone?
It does not. It sounds like hard petrified wood, effectively.
How'd you get this off the tree? They're like stone.
It was with me this morning.
Let me look at it for a moment.
A monolith tree twig here.
So I'm gonna take it, and I have an innate ability to detect magic. So I'm gonna take some time to kind of study it and see if I can sense any emanations or presence of any kind of residual magic in it.
So there are hints. So one of the interesting things about spells in Pathfinder 2nd is there are different kind of characteristics or things that make up the magic. There's essences and there's the traditions. Arcane, divine, occult, primal are the traditions, and then the essences are matter, spirit, mind, and life. What this has, for one, it has that same very, very faint, flutter of necromantic power that is characteristic of anything that comes from the Barrowmoor. It's very, very faint, but you also, there is as well a faint kind of primal soul to it as well too.
Mm.
And I think that why don't you, let's see here, give me an Arcana check. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens here.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be an expert. So yeah. So this is unusual for these, unless every single one of these monolith things, and they may very well be that way, that they all have some kind of, primal spiritual energy to them. But this seems, maybe it's not even that it's got that energy to it. It's like it's a pathway. It's like it's a conduit. In the same way you would create a channel through which water would run.
Mm-hmm.
This might even prove to be, a way of channeling that power. You've heard, of ley lines in your studies, right?
Mm-hmm.
The flows of magic. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to relay that to my two companions. I've never seen this before, never encountered it. I do not know that much about these monolith oaks. Certainly not more than Zuko. But this one seems to be special. Does that make sense to you, Zuko? Does this happen normally, or is this a unique?
As far as I know,
range?
they're rare outside the Barrowmoor, but more prevalent inside.
Right. So I think this is maybe some sort of unique form of a monolith oak branch, but it has this. It's sort of like a conduit for primal power. I do not know what that means. I'm not familiar
Zuko
with
primal magic.
Yes, so you may know more than I do about this, but it definitely came out of the Barrowmoor. I can sense that for sure.
Zuko, do you have detect magic as a cantrip?
I do not.
Oh. Okay.
No, I didn't take it.
No, well, that also makes sense with your. If you were effectively a slave forced into, learning specific types of magics that you had, then that makes sense that your character may not be.
He blows stuff up. He doesn't care if it's shiny.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe he'll pick it up at 6th level.
Nice.
So I don't know. There are many possibilities of what this may be. It could be some sort of divining rods or compass or something that can lead us to somewhere, or perhaps we need to bring it to a certain location and use it once we arrive to channel the power that this can connect to.
Yeah, if you were to use some sort of divining magic, or had someone who had expertise in that type of thing, maybe this could lead back to it.
So I wonder if there's perhaps a druid grove nearby, or we can inquire if there are anyone else who might have more proficiency with primal magic in Helix.
You do know. The most powerful druid that you have met thus far, of course, is old Werbin Silverstone.
Yeah, one of our allies
true.
is a druid.
That is a good point. I'm intelligent, but I am not wise. Sometimes I don't see the forest for the trees. That's why we work so well together. Or we're very dangerous to be in the same group.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, perhaps we should. Shall we find Werbin? Sir Yuan, is there anything we can do for you? You seem off, which is understandable.
No, I think I'll be better soon enough.
I think as well, Sir Yvain, that there is dreams are such that they are laden with symbolic meaning. I take it you discuss everything that you remembered?
Yeah, and attempting to kind of talk about kind of give them the once over and then say, and these are sort of like details or things that the way that dreams are, where there's sort of like things that are in unrealistic kind of hyper focus in the midst of that, and sort of talk about that, about the symbols of Saint Yig that were on the pillar, and the way that the noise of the frogs kind of drowned out everything, and all of the.
You do recall that Sir Albus fell to frogs.
Yep.
For one too. But I mean, that just seemed to be, from what your allies have told you, that was just a bit of bad luck on his part. It wasn't a malevolent, expression from them. What else do you think the frogs might mean? Well, I guess first off, what do you think that the pillar and the voices, the hungry voices in the dark, mean?
Well, so I'm thinking that that has something to do with somehow the influence of Saint Yig over Helix specifically, because the last time when we came back, I sort of had this moment of thinking about, like, why is this town safe? And looked at the Church of Saint Yig and didn't have kind of a firm answer, but was like that has something to do with this. That's kind of my first theory about it, is that somehow this is the the pillar of light in the darkness that is being protected. And then I also know that there are frogmen on the march, aren't there?
Froglings, yeah.
Froglings on
yeah.
the march.
Yeah, the Froglings are a regular threat in the Barrowmoor. You guys, or at least none of your allies, have encountered any of them thus far, because they seem to be located a little closer to the headwaters of the Moorwash River. But you have heard tell that there have been Frogling raiders who have hit the caravans moving from Helix to Ironguard Mott, which is further north than what they traditionally are find themselves, right?
And those are different
I'm
from the
wondering-
creatures that you guys encountered on the way back to Helix.
The Lizardmen, yeah.
Yeah, those are lizardmen, separate thing. Okay.
Those also seem to be pretty far north too, because there are standing stones far to the south, the southern region in the Barrowmoor. That seems to be what their location. I mean, all these things typically range. It's not unheard of. It is unusual to have encountered lizardmen so far north, but particularly the Froglings. The Froglings are they've been definitely more prominent in the late summer through in the fall. Yeah.
Well, and if I had to guess, it seems like those kind of misshapen skulls would fit humanoid frogs. That were the ones that were around the pool that I woke up in for the second half.
Yeah, if you
Describe
describe them,
to Zuko, since he knows a thing or two about nature, and see what he thinks.
yeah. Zuko, why don't you give me a let's see here, a nature check again, please.
Zuko stretches his face and tries real hard.
Goes nice. Okay, so here's one of the things, because in addition to the opportunities that you wanted to explore here, you also, being a prudent goblin, you wanted to make sure that you were aware of all the threats that were here as well.
And if they can burn.
And they can be burned, yeah. So the Froglings are one of the malevolent species that lives out there, and one of these. So what he describes, like, yeah, that is there, though. They're typically primitive creatures, so if there's that bog that's there, from what Sir Yvain described to you, with the bog being warm and bubbling and things wriggling around through it, Froglings go through a life cycle very similar to other amphibians. They start as effectively like Frogling equivalent of tadpoles, and they evolve in their lifespan through to becoming these bipedal, carnivorous, nasty little creatures. Either Zuko or Bargle, why don't you both give me occultism? I think you guys are both trained in occultism, right?
Yes.
Trying really hard again.
Yeah.
Ah!
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Let me see what I can do here.
Now,
Oh!
20.
Yes.
Oh my god. Okay, so what, Bargle, what you've heard is, that, oh god, like now that they start talking about Froglings, because I think in the late summer when everyone was taking off and you were trying to figure out what you were going to do, you heard people talk around Bogtown. There's two things. One, there is, I think her name, the Mother of Toads. There is this being who lives outside of Bogtown, named the Mother of Toads, and she is said to be the wisest and potentially the most dangerous woman in hundreds of miles. Rumor, or what one traveler claimed, is that the Mother of Toads told him that froglings actually consume their own, apart from, because they believe that the strength passes on to their kind, apart from their most wise and their most powerful. Those they lay to rest in the breeding grounds, where their young can consume the wisdom of their elders and then go on. With an Nat 20, you think you heard tell that this guy claimed that the Mother of Toads showed him the way to go there. Mm-hmm. Because the riches of their the sources of power, the enchanted weapons, the whatever else that their great heroes had, those are laid to rest them. It's the frogling equivalent of a cemetery, but also breeding ground. And you can't believe you didn't think of it before, but he talked about a monolith oak. So you get all that because of the Nat 20.
Mm-hmm. Huh. And do I know in what respect or how it factored in? Was that there's a monolith oak there at the breeding grounds? Or
it's said to have marked their cemetery, yeah.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
So because he was, the way he talked about it, it's like there's generations of these things, and they just put it in the bog. It's there for the taking.
Which is why I remembered it.
Yeah, definitely. Unsurprisingly, that guy never returned.
Right, which is why I never went there.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's coming in handy now, so of course I'll share every bit of this information with my two companions. So this may all make sense. This may not be some fever dream that you had. This may be extremely important. I'm sure it was troubling to be visited by a specter, but it seems that Sir Albus returned, or at least his spirit did, to help us with something terrible that has hatched.
One thing I'll give you with a Nat 20 as well. So just as context, the froglings, like all the things that inhabit the Barrowmoor, they're not like teamed up necessarly. The froglings don't truck in necromantic power or whatever else. They just happen to live there. And they deal with the threats of the Barrowmaze in the same, or the Barrow mounds and the necrotic power, in the same way that the human inhabitants and the other, sentient, civilized, creatures do. The way the Thornwild elves do. The way the dwarves of the Moon Peaks do. They're just another civilization that lives out there.
And does Zuko know if they have a reputation for being, for doing evil things in general, or they seem to be more? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The cannibals, yeah.
But
cannibals is one thing that could be part of their culture, and maybe they're not effectively evil, but yeah.
I can tell you one thing: they're not. They are raiders. They are not an army.
Interesting.
Even and that's common sense. Like the Helix has never been besieged, at least not in living memory. And part of that is because the things that live in the Barrowmoor, these are hunter-gatherers. They're not warriors.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder if someone is trying to turn them into an army, or collecting them into an army, or, with intent to come to civilized parts of the world like Helix. Mm-hmm. Using the necrotic energy that is at the heart of the Barrowmoor and infuses everything. Like perhaps their burial/breeding grounds has been corrupted as well, and turning these creatures into the vision that you described of the skulls of these creatures and the hungry voices. I wonder if there's something that we can prevent from happening before it's too late.
What about the black toad? What do you guys make of that?
Oh yeah, it was like pristine. right? It had no.
It was perfectly black. It had big yellow eyes that seemed to stare soulfully at Sir Yvain. Sir Yvain, what did that mean to you?
So seems like some type of, if we're thinking through and that these are the whole kind of frogling society and stuff, some type of like a, a shaman or a leader of their group, or somehow some kind of like perhaps even I'm wondering if there's some sense of like almost a creature that could magically sense my presence as a dream figure within the world, almost like if we're imagining that like Sir Albus brought dream me to this place, and then we have this kind of magical toad that could see that, essentially that might be a way to think about.
Yeah.
Bargo can confirm that. He definitely sensed that spiritual magic, the conduit for spirit essence from this particular, monolith oak.
I mean, my theory as to what that might mean, based on what you just said, Sir Yvain, is that perhaps this is, like you said, a shaman, but maybe not even an actual individual, but the soul of the people, the soul of the frog, like the perfect froglings as they were meant to be, is seeing that they're being corrupted and is seeking help. And so, therefore, like you said, connected with you via Sir Albus in your dream to try to see if there was something that we could do to help. Perhaps, since it was so pristine as you described.
Why do you think Sir Albus came to you?
Well, he knew that I would recognize a symbol of archangel certainty, and seems like he would have some, I guess, depends on how much I think Sir Albus is aware of kind of what's going on in Helix, but it seems like he would probably, it seems reasonable that Sir Albus, as an entity still around, might assume that I have kind of the best odds of being interested in the whole corruption of the Guardian Bearers issue and the sort of divine struggle that's going on in the Barrowmore and the Barrowmaze, as opposed to some of my fellows who are more like treasure hunters. And the other Sir Albus's friends were all busy with Hendon, so, or West was, out cold,
Yeah.
so they weren't available.
Why would he have come now? Knowing how tired you are, knowing what you've just gone through, assuming that he has some knowledge of what's gone on. Why would he come now?
Because it's a threat that can't wait. Seems like the obvious one, that there's not a lot of time available. We're running up against the clock for this issue.
Right.
So as that cold realization kind of comes, I'm picturing your characters are all sort of talking this through out loud, right?
Yeah.
And that's when clank, 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 3 plates are placed in front of you by Tacey. He says, "Whoa, how serious you boys look." I hear Hendon's doing well. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. He's doing well?
So they say that he's progressing well. The ritual will not be completed for another day, but it seems as if they've been carrying on. Brother Othar left. The others, or Gamdar, came to collect the food for all. But the ritual continues, and they say it seems to be going well.
Excellent.
That's good.
It's very good to hear.
She looks down at the twig on the table. Do you want me to throw that away for you?
No.
No. It's a keepsake.
So then we will end our session, leaving you guys to contemplate just how soon is soon. if this threat is timely.
And we push in on the branch and the table in the middle between us as we're all talking above it, and then suddenly like moves a tiny bit.
I think you hear the soft echo of croaking of frogs.
Awesome.
And we will end our session there. Cool. All right.
Cool.
So, for those listening at home, thank you so much for joining us for session 9 of the our ongoing. What do you call it? Oh, we got a question in chat. Is the sorcerer goblin named Zuko? Is it an Avatar reference?
Yeah. Maybe.
Nice.
Yes, it is. There you go. So, as always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the session, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below, and I will endeavor to respond in a timely fashion. Further, if you don't want to do that, you can also reach me on Twitter at Dungeon Musings. You can also shoot me an email at dungeonmusings@gmail.com. You can also join us in the Dungeon Musings Discord channel, which you can find in the description of the video as well too. It's relatively new, but we are I'm in there pretty often, and so are some of the guys too. So you want to chat with any of the players, you can likely find some of them in there. In addition, you may notice that there's a link to something called Heroes Save Villages in the description of the video. That is the charity fundraising campaign that we run on the channel. We don't run any ads. We don't do a Patreon. If you are inclined to toss some valuable, monolith oak branches in the direction of the channel, you can feel free to click through that and learn a little about the Heroes Save Villages campaign and SOS Children's Villages International, which is the charity that benefits from the fundraising. The fundraising, all funds that are raised goes directly to help SOS Children's Villages International do the very, very good work that they do, which is to say that they are active in over 130 countries, helping over 80,000 orphaned and abandoned children around the world, North America and elsewhere. So it's a really terrific charity. Any money that is donated does help them help these kids who would otherwise not have a childhood. So it's a really great charity, really great. I don't want to say great initiative yet. This makes me sound I'm bumming myself up, but it's a worthy cause, is I guess what I'm trying to say. None of that money goes to us either, I should say. So, last but not least, fighting off fatigue both in characters and in the players. I want to thank my players for tonight. So George, Arlen, and John, thanks so much for joining me back in the Barrowmaze. Next session, we hit double digits, guys.
Awesome.
So, until next time then, thanks again to everyone who joined us live. Thanks for everyone who's watching us at another time. Until next time, happy gaming.